All righty. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Douglas. I'm Senior Warden of Virginia Research Lodge. This is our first live unstated meeting where I have people in the room with me. Y'all want to wave to the camera. And then what I'll probably do then is I'll mute when I'm not speaking. You can turn the mic back on. We are doing a panel discussion. I call this a very special Scottish Rite meeting or episode, because we're here at the Scottish Rite Conference in Richmond, and we're taking time out to have an unstated meeting for the Research Lodge. So that's really cool. Since everybody's here, I'm not going to send my usual links around, but you can ask me afterwards if you don't have links to our Facebook page or what have you. I think most of you are already in our group. But I want to welcome everybody who's here today. And I'm going to ask you to just go around the room real quick and introduce yourselves.
Starting. Wes Latchford from the 35th Masonic District in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and also the Director of Education for the Norfolk Valley Scottish Rite, and also the DEO for the 56th District.
Hi, Terry Smith. I'm the Veteran Master of the Alexandria Scottish Rite here at the conference. I'm also the King of the Frontier number 25 chapter, and I'm at Henry, Senior Warden. Henry number 57. So looking forward to today's discussion.
Bill Buzzes, 25th Masonic District, also the Valley of Lynchburg for Scottish Rite.
Tim Thorman, Master of Buena Vista Lodge number 186 in Buena Vista, Virginia, and the Junior Warden of the Valley of Lynchburg, and District Deputy High Priest for the 14th Capitular District of the York Rite.
Hi, John Suit, Freedom Lodge 112, Eldersburg, Maryland, also member of Alexandria Scottish Rite, past Commander of Kadosh.
Mike Taldo, past Venerable Master, Alexandria Scottish Rite, past Master of Freedom Lodge number 112 in Eldersburg, Maryland. Nice.
All right. And as you can see, everyone here is much more qualified to be here than I am, but you're stuck with me as your host. Okay, so how about I'll pose a question, and then I don't expect everybody to answer every question. We just sort of raise your hand and then go, and then we'll see whoever wants to respond. I've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions, and we may hit them all up. We may not, depending on how long the discussion goes.
I'd like to move on to the next question. This should be a phone number. Andrew Hammer, in his book Observing the Craft, suggests that appendant bodies draw members' focus away from the Blue Lodge. And is this true? And if the Blue Lodges actually offer Masonic education, would members still be driven to go join appendant bodies?
Oh, I want to go first.
Yeah, I'll take second on that.
I want to go first because one of the things that we do at Freedom Lodge is we have an education officer, and he was my education officer for all 3 years. And let me tell you something: there's no better resource than having a resource that has connections to be able to drum up presentations to draw interest. And so we set up a schedule. Not every meeting can have a presentation because we have to do work, right? The lodges has work to do. So every time we did not have work to do, we had an education meeting. And so it's absolutely critical. Does it draw people's attention or away from the Blue Lodge? A little, but then it just increases the amount of work that Mason's chosen to do.
Yeah, in some cases it probably does. I think having the appendant body, especially the Scottish Rite's where I found kind of, my people, my guys. And if the Scottish Rite didn't exist, and maybe others find that in New York, right, and other appendant bodies, things like that. But that's where I found mine. That I was looking for, quote unquote, the University of Freemasonry. I was looking for, guys who not just were very sharp, and I think we can all agree, you run into some very sharp people in the Scottish Rite, but also kind of have a deep understanding and are on some kind of journey. And that's I don't know that you're going to find that in a Blue Lodge. A Blue Lodge makes Masons, and they do a very good job of it. And certainly the material is there, but I didn't really get, I was a little disappointed after becoming a Master Mason from a kind of like, what is this all about perspective. And it wasn't until I was sitting in the 31st degree that it all hit home at, yeah, mine too, our favorite. Yeah. And it all kind of hit home and was like, wait a minute. And all the puzzle pieces came into focus. And I realized how much was actually in the Master Mason's degree. And, from from a levels perspective, you have a level of allegory, and I'll be careful here, obviously, guys. But there's deep layers of meaning in those degrees, which is just amazing how they were written. And that slotted in for me. But if I hadn't been a part of the Scottish Rite and attended the other 29 degrees of the Scottish Rite, I don't know that would have happened for me, and I might have gone elsewhere to find that meaning. And so I think it definitely does much more of a service than it does a distraction in any way.
I think Andrew's point, just to guess.
I didn't read Andrew's book.
I did, and I have to say, I didn't agree with everything, and that's why I'm asking these questions.
Okay.
But it made me think.
Sure,
which is more
that's the best thing of
importantly,
all. Yeah,
yes, he was exactly what I do. Why did I bother reading the book then?
right.
I don't think the Blue Lodge communicates all of the symbolism and the meaning of the 3 degrees, as you mentioned. The other bodies have managed to kind of draw things out.
That's right.
Upon reflection on what they teach. But the other thing that I think he didn't take into account is, okay, I would not be in a room with all of you today if we didn't have Scottish.
That's right.
I'd be in his lodge maybe because he's in my district, they're close.
No, we don't want you.
So he didn't blackball me, I didn't hit him yet.
But
Where are the doors? Scottish Rite, even more than the Royal Arch, I think, Scottish Rite is, we're the cornerstone of these 3 districts, or your 5 districts, or your 3 counties, whatever it is. And that's where all the active Blue Lodge Masons, the masters and the wardens and the deacons, they go to Scottish Rite. You're already getting the cream of the crop. And they're meeting together as kind of a break from the Blue Lodge, but we're connected, we're networking. And you wouldn't spend time with members of all those other lodges if you didn't get to go to Scottish Rite.
That's right.
Above our lodge communities that Scottish Rite offers.
I just want to state that one of the things that John and I were able to do was to take what we learned in Alexandria by going through the degrees and participating in the degrees and going to reunions over and over and over again, was we took that information back to the Blue Lodge and broke it down for them at the appropriate levels with the appropriate attendees in those meetings. And that is something that should be incumbent upon all of us at the Scottish Rite.
Yeah, that's not to say we took what was asked not to be said in the Scottish Rite
of course.
to the Blue Lodge. We certainly didn't do that, but there's certainly a number of things you can relate back to the first 3 degrees in Masonry. And so that was really, really effective, and certainly very effective of getting brothers interested in joining the Scottish Rite, which they did quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think 2 things with that as well is when we have this level of interaction, from an appendant body level, one of the disservices we do to Masonic education within a district level or even within the lodge level is we have this list of usual speakers, right? And so every worshipful master, as they come in, they're like basically taking the previous person's playbook and going, oh, well, in February they had this speaker. And so then it's just this continual re-invite of the same folks. Not that they aren't providing exceptional Masonic education, but with this kind of interaction, you get the ability to go, oh, dude, no, I need you to come to my lodge and maybe we'll pay for it, maybe, we're gonna ask pro bono. But the thing is, you get the connections where you can expand that level of knowledge and education beyond just what has always been done,
Sure.
which is a big thing too. And I think back to just the, do the appendant bodies draw members focus away? I think we kind of said it might actually help refine the focus, but I also think that's just an urban legend, because I do process improvement stuff for a living. I'm like, I would love to see the data that proves your thesis, because if that was the case, then Scottish Rite and Shrine and others would also not be looking for other ways to try to, try to bring members on board. So, and there's a couple other things where I'm like, show me the data, show me the metrics
I think
where you're making that decision.
the only place I could say honestly where you join the Blue Lodge and join something else and they don't see you again is the Shrine. Because a lot of men are approached, John, come join the Shrine. You gotta hurry up and join this Blue Lodge, get that out of the way, but then you're gonna be in the Shrine and you gotta keep paying the dues. But you're joining to be a Shriner, not to be a Mason. And honestly, with all respect to all the great work the Shrine does, that's their recruiting tool.
Yeah.
And the Scottish Rite is, I don't know anyone who's active in the Scottish Rite who was not already, there are somebody or there a recent was in their Blue Lodge. So it's not that they never go back to the Blue Lodge. The Shrine may be the only one that actually does that. And honestly, they weren't ever going to be active in the Blue Lodge. They're joining to be in the Shrine. That's not all of them. I mean, look at Leon Stocks as an example of someone who is active in absolutely everything.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
But I was to say that the Henry number 57, probably bring that first question together with the second question. We're talking about community and being part of the community. And I think as an extension, the appendant bodies reach out and extend our community within Masonry. But I think with the Henry 57, we had a really interesting, we actually donated our lodge in Fairfax to the city of Fairfax, and it's their city hall. And as part of our, sort of deed, we said, oh, but we get to use the city hall a certain, number of days. We have a right to come back to and use this. And we used to do our installations there. After COVID, all of a sudden, people were sort of like, well, who are you?
Mhm.
And, why do you think you have the right to come in and use City Hall? And it's this, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't make the connection, then you can't keep the connection. So I'm saying we make these connections. It's part of we sit there and we take our obligations seriously. And that's one of the obligations I think that as a Blue Lodge member, I take seriously is that connection that I make, not just to my brothers, but that, it's incumbent on me to all people have that claim upon me.
Okay, still talking about Andrew Hammer. Andrew Hammer also said that Masonic youth groups are a distraction, that Masonic lodges should be solely focused on improving Masons, not helping youth. Agree or disagree?
No way. That's completely wrong.
Yeah, that's got to be super short-sighted.
That's narrow.
That's generationally short-sighted.
It's narrow-minded and narrow thought process. And I'm on the record for that one.
Again, going back to the statistical analysis thing, because oftentimes, particularly, grand annual and other gatherings of Masons, we talk about our youth groups as the future of Freemasonry.
Always say it.
Right, but I'm like, okay, and where's your metrics and data to show how many DMLA eventually become Master Masons? How many, Jobies or Rainbows end up affiliating with Eastern Star or any of, the other laundry list of appendant bodies where we have, both men and women participating. And so again, but we always get back to that thing where we become short-sighted and we think of it as just a membership thing. Well, we support the youth groups because they might become members. Well, no, we support the youth groups because it's what we're called to do as Freemasons. And oh, by the way, they're working to live by the same values and, principles that we supposedly, not only, are proponents of, but, live our lives by.
I mean, it's not just the Masonic youth groups that you should support, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the whole 9 yards, because, I know that you're exactly right. I can't improve upon what you said. I just trying to extend it beyond just the Masonic youth groups.
So Tom Varner, who has actually been one of our Zoom meeting guests before, he is the chaplain for the conference, and he led the necrology service, which is where we honor the KCCHs and 33rds who passed during the year. Obviously, you can't recite all of the members of all 9 valleys that passed during the year. So we only specifically recognize the KCCHs and the 33rds. And thankfully, Shenandoah, our brand new valley, didn't have any deaths. And I think that's great. But the fact that they're only a couple of months old, that may be the last time. But I'm very glad to say they had no deaths. And then, of course, we had one more flower representing all of our brothers. all across all the valleys who passed away. But what Tom did, which I thought was really nice, and I'd like to see it continue, he didn't just say, Brother Ricky Smith, who was a KCCH and was a member of this valley, but he was also a member of DMLA. Tom, who's a senior DMLA like I am, mentioned in the necrology service all of those who were senior DMLAs, and this one fellow was 85, an 85-year DMLA, and likely the oldest DMLA in the country. And he mentioned all of them who gave service to DMLA. They were either a DMLA as a youth, or they were an adult advisor, and often it's both. And there were quite a few people sadly lost this year from the Virginia Association of DMLA, who were very active for years. Some of them I've known when I was in DMLA myself. So I think you can say the fact that Matt Cernosky is a senior DMLA, he'll be Grand Master in a few years, and Tom Barber is a senior DMLA, I'm a senior DMLA. There are quite a few of us who are very active in Masonry. See, but you're right. We're not supporting DMLA just because they're a Masonic farm league. We are encouraging them, and many of them do. That's a benefit, but not the reason we do.
I remember back in Utah, and my two sons, we had they had Boy Scouts, but they really didn't like Boy Scouts. And being in Masonry, I said, why don't you join DMLA? And so both my sons joined DMLA and in Salt Lake City, and they invite the parents to the obligation ceremonies, And I thought, boy, if every young man who took that oath actually lived up to that oath, we would have the finest core of young men in the country if they actually lived up to that oath. Because that I was so impressed. I don't remember the wording, but I remember how impressed I was by what they promised to do and become. Honor your parents, you get a good education, and be good citizens of the community. I'm happy to say my two sons have lived up to that. I'm happy to say I initiated one of my sons last year in the Masonry, and he's now my senior steward.
We should mention the Scottish Rite. It was Frank Lamb, who was a Scottish Rite Mason,
Yes.
who founded DMLA.
Right.
And he and another brother used the ritual of Jacques DMLA from the 29th degree, and that's how they chose the name. So one thing that I like about the DMLA ritual, that actually I think the Masonic ritual should have some of those words, like in the installation ceremony for the Master Counselor, from the ranks you have arisen, into the ranks you will soon return. I really think every Masonic installation should have that as well, too, and the mask.
The other thing I was laughing about, well, just on the DMLA side, but thinking about it, it kind of relates over into our other two Masonic youth organizations, is regrettably in many instances, I have seen that they take their ritual work much more seriously and are a heck of a lot better at it than a lot of our lodges. There are times where I'm sitting in a lodge and I'm asking the question, am I in a Virginia lodge? Because the ritual that this is not what I have learned, or it's not the way we do it, but I also did a caveat before I restated that the ritual you see here, is only similar to the ritual of the Grand Lodge of Virginia by pure happenstance.
I want to say, if you're watching this online, please like and subscribe. This has been a unique experience. I will try and do this again in the future. I thought it was a lot of fun. It is an adjustment for me as the host to be trying to pay attention to y'all sitting here with me. And fortunately, we only had Brian for a few minutes. We didn't have a whole bunch of other attendees. I want to do this more often. I'm going to give everyone a chance to any final words before we close out. Start with Wes.
Don't be first. Think about your Freemasonry. Don't just attend lodge. Increase your expectations of what you want to get from the craft, because that in turn will help hopefully increase the expectations of the lodge in what they are to provide to you in return.
Again, lead by example. Let people see what you like in Freemasonry. Don't tell them. Let them see, and that creates the question.
That's a good point. I would say Freemasonry isn't for everyone, but if you feel compelled, knock on the lodge door and find out when they're going to meet, and give the lodge secretary a call and see if you can just come out to dinner or with the members or something.
I just want to stick on a theme that I think is critical. You need to be visible, and you need to advertise the craft. Wear the hats, wear the shirts, wear the rings, make it known.
Our next, unstated meeting will be October 19th. We have Masonic Family Day next week up here in Richmond, and then, Civil War after that. So, October 19th will be Chad Kopensky, who has been a frequent speaker here, and he will be giving a talk. And I'm looking forward to that. So I thank all of my panelists for being here today. This was great. I think we talked about a lot of good stuff. I'm looking forward to putting this out on the web, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people to get this out there and people watching encourage discussion. But
Great.
thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.